Don't play, ho.
They can't
I'm
tell that.
gonna end you tonight, ho. I'm
Good
gonna end you tonight,
luck.
bitch.
Good luck.
I'm gonna end you
You will
tonight,
see.
pussy ass ho.
You will see.
I'm gonna end you
You will
tonight,
see.
bitch.
Welcome to my channel. It's your girl Tishay, and I'm so happy to be your host once again. So in today's video, we are going to be going through the reunion part 1 of Bobby I Love You, Purr. If you want to know everything that happened in this particular first part of the reunion, do well to smash the subscribe button if you're new to my channel, and let's meet in the next video. Not waste too much time, I'm gonna go on to the beefs that were discussed backstage before the main, event. Savage stated while dressing up backstage that his beef with Ding-A-Ling was only because of a feud on social media that had actually gotten resolved during the course of the show, but it did seem like Bakari or Ding-A-Ling decided to bring it back up, right? Now in Ding-A-Ling's defense, he said that he had read on Twitter when Savage's boyfriend threatened him, saying that he had guns and sticks ready for Ding-A-Ling, right? But Ding-A-Ling was like, that the last time he checked, when he visited Savage, or when he visited Savage's house or home, he didn't see any of that. So he was wondering, what sticks and guns they were talking about. Okay, another person that talked about beef was Big Bird. He basically said that he's a very casual, outgoing person and doesn't have issue with anybody, but apparently other people have issues or an issue with him, and he made an example of Miss Mamas. So according to Big Bird, he said that Miss Mamas decided to pick a fight with him only because he was on a live show with his fellow cast member Gohad, where Gohad had threatened to beat Miss Mamas on sight whenever he got the chance to, or whenever they finally met, right? Now according to Big Bird, that Miss Mamas rather expected some kind of like loyalty from him, and was offended by the fact that he was doing a live with an up, right? So in Big Bird's defense, he said he didn't owe anyone loyalty and he wasn't a follower, that he was a born leader and he wasn't gonna be caught up in anybody's beef. Over to Island Boy. Island Boy actually said his beef with Bobby Lytes was because of the lies and the fakeness, right? Now according to Island Boy, he said a relationship never existed between himself and Bobby Lytes, that Bobby Lytes was out spreading lies, and that he just went in to fuck and came out, and nothing more, right? And he said that he basically was like tarnishing Bobby's image, because he basically told the other cast members that were in the room with him that they should be very grateful that they dodged the bullets, right? Because according to Island Boy, Bobby Lytes was okay, but that was during the course of the show. Like when he got to spend more time with Bobby, he found the exotic Bobby rather, and realized that Bobby's mentality and mindset was so opposite from his, and that dating, being with Bobby, rather not dating, being with Bobby or Bobby as a person was a shit show. Of course, Bobby has some things to say in his defense, but let's be patient. Now over to Soul. Soul said that friendship aside with Island Boy, that he felt like he would have stayed or should have stayed longer than Island Boy, who only just, didn't or wasn't as serious as he portrayed himself to be during the course of the show. Because obviously we already know all the things that escalated between Island Boy and Bobby Lytes. Rumors that were flying from both sides, on Island Boy just being a player and all of that. So like, based on that, so was like, irregardless of I keep using the word regardless, but I know regardless of the fact that they were friends, that he didn't appreciate that Island Boy took advantage of that, because it was mentioned very much later that Bobby, the reason why Bobby, Island Boy actually faulted like several times, but Bobby overlooked, probably because Bobby already had like a soft spot for Island Boy and liked him, right? So so just basically said that with everything that had escalated so far, that he felt like he should have been the one to have stayed instead of Island Boy. Okay. Miss Mamas, on the other hand, said that her beef was with everyone and anyone that had her name in their mouths, and that she was out to check each and every one of them during the audition. Of course, I forgot to add that, Island Boy also mentioned that there was some sort of domestic violence that existed between himself and Bobby. And I would like to think majority of that came from Island Boy. The reason we will find out very much into the video. Okay, so of course you remember Dimitri. He was invited over to JasonLee's van to just have like a heart to heart, right? So basically JasonLee, after they sat down and JasonLee asked him how he was doing, and he basically said that he was scared, right? And Jason asked him why he was scared, and he was like, the boys and all of that. And, Jason was like, he didn't have to be scared. And that's when Jason went ahead. That's when Jason went ahead to like, ask him why he left the show all of a sudden, because initially when he got into the show, there was this confidence that he exuded, right? But like it was a little bit shocking for him that Dimitri ended up leaving the show abruptly. And that was when Dimitri kind of responded, saying that it was only because he was always being attacked by the other guys, and he was wondering why he was the target when all he ever did or all he was doing was just basically trying to like advertise his personality to Bobby, right? So like, and he felt like that for every time he was attacked, he always felt the need to like defend himself, right? So like he said at some point he had to like pause and ask himself what he was doing, and that was why he decided to leave. And Jason was like, okay, because from his perspective he felt like Dimitri kind of was like entitled, right? But like he also thinks that probably that's the same light the other guy saw it. But like, does he this is now like the question he threw to Dimitri. He basically asked Dimitri if he felt like he was being misread. And Dimitri responded saying definitely yes, that all he was ever doing was just trying to like advertise his personality, right? And it was never from the light of being entitled. So Jason finally concluded that okay, so Dimitri left the show not because he was scared of being ganged up on by the other guys, but because he was treated unfairly. So the next scene we're gonna see is Bobby, visiting Rolin Ray in his own truck or van. Yeah, Bobby visits Rolin Ray, and they get to like exchange pleasantries. And I've forgotten how the Miss Mama topic came up, but basically Bobby had a bit to say on that. He basically said that, the reason why he left Miss Mamas on the show was because prior to the show, Miss Mamas had been showing advertising it on TikTok that, he was messing around with his ex. Please forgive me if I keep misusing the he and she. At this point, I'm confused. So yeah, if you hear me say he, all right, if you hear me say she, just know that we're still referring to the same person, okay? But yeah, he said that, Miss Mamas kept advertising the fact that he/she had been messing around with, his ex on TikTok and other social platforms. So like, he just gave Miss Mamas the opportunity to like, come on the show and, showcase his true personality, that he just wanted to like, get to know more about Miss Mama's personality, right? That outside that, nothing else. Yeah. And then he went ahead to like give us some tea on the famous island boy. Yes, according to Bobby, he said that island boy was fake, was a manipulator, was a cheat, was everything. He had all the bad words to use for island boy. He basically said that island boy kind of manipulated him into thinking that they were going to like have a future or build something together, which is why he invested a lot into him. Bobby actually disclosed that he took care of island boy's rent, bills, bought food for him occasionally and all of that. That he actually basically invested financially into island boy, right? And that he thought the reason he did that was because, like I said, island boy gave him that impression of them building whatever together, right? And that was why he went ahead to do what he did, only for him to find out that island boy was not just only cheating, but cheating with the handler, and he had receipts. Basically, he said he had receipts, and he called his personal assistants, who came in with like this hardcover book of all the receipts. So I was like, what? So like Bobby had actually took his time to go on to print or go out to print all the receipts or proof on the fact that Alan Boy had been cheating with the handler. He printed them into pages and actually put them, made a book out of his receipts. So I was like, what? So yes, he actually did that. And basically he ended that conversation telling Rolin Ray that the reason he came over was just to give him an update and ask Rolin Ray to have his back. Okay, so the reunion is finally set to begin. The hosts, of course, who are JasonLee, who is also an executive co-producer of the show, and Claudia Jordan, are already seated. And each person gets turns to invite their cast members that were sitting on their sides. So for Claudia Jordan, she invited the cast members who were basically members at the bottom. Of course, these were Rerun, Ding-A-Ling, Hercules, Go Hard, Futon, and who else? Colgate and Big Bird. These guys came in, they took their seats, and exchanged a little bit of some pleasantries. And then JasonLee went ahead to invite his own side cast members, who were of course members at the top, and these were famous Island Boy. I'm sorry, but I just can't hold it. I can't keep myself from doing that. But yeah, Island Boy, Miss Mamas, and Dimitri, what do we have on that side? Soul, Tracks, Pop Wheels, and of course Savage. Now these were the guys on JasonLee's side. Now when these guys were coming in, of course, Island Boy felt the need to attack Dimitri. Right now, in the process of attacking Dimitri, we saw persons like Ding-A-Ling and Go had run over to the other side of the room to also attack their opponents. Now for Ding-A-Ling, of course, he went for Savage, and for Go Hard, of course, he went for Miss Mamas, right? As he had already said in the live that when he saw Miss Mamas, he was on site. All right. So this happened, and security kind of like immediately came in to the scene and try to break off the whole event. And at some point, Ding-A-Ling, who ran over to the other room to attack Savage, got flipped over by Savage. I'm like, how do you run over to the other room, to the other side of the room, when you don't even know how to throw a proper punch, bro? Be humble and just sit down, okay? But yeah, after the whole thing escalated, security came in, separated them. We had Savage taken out of the scene to go, cool off backstage. So while the guys were now the guys who were left in the room that was, basically trying to settle in after the whole mess that had just happened. JasonLee kind of got pissed at the whole situation, and was basically trying to advise the guys to settle in, that they were each going to have the opportunity to talk about whatever. And Claudia too was at the same time, she was up and also still trying to encourage the guys to be calm and be of their best behavior, so they could just basically go through all the questions they had for them. Now in the process of this, I think Dimitri was also removed from the scene prior, but then he came back into the scene, and this time around with a bottle of water, and he was throwing. He basically I think he was trying to aim for Island Boy, but the way he was throwing that water seemed he was aimless, because if you want to aim something at someone, it's this way, but I saw him doing this, so I was like, what's going on here? Anyway, in the process of that, I think that particular act triggered Fruiton to run over to jump him, basically. Yeah, so Fruiton jumped him, and got separated again by the security. And the energy that was once trying to gradually calm down spiked up again. So after this happened, JasonLee actually stormed out of the set pissed, and Claudia, who was also at that point pissed, basically scolded at them, saying that if they didn't want to have a reunion, they should just basically find themselves out the door. Okay, so JasonLee finally gets the opportunity to invite Bobby Lytes into the room, and of course Bobby Lytes came with two not really muscular guys, but guys who were obviously good physique, 6-packs and all, who had their bodies oiled up. But yeah, he had two guys by his side who helped walk him in, took him to his seat, and fed him an alcohol straight from the bottle. I was like, okay, Bobby. So after that, Jason kind of asked him to do a fast, a rundown for basically stand up and do a 360, because his outfit looked amazing, which of course he did. After which he went back to sit down, and that was when Jason disclosed to him that a fight already broke out, and Bobby of course inquired to know who were involved, and of course JasonLee actually told him that of course it was between Savage and Ding-A-Ling. And when he was asking why, Savage of course responded saying that because Ding-A-Ling is a weirdo, and that was when some kind of short-lived verbal altercation happened between two of them again. And after which Bobby Lytes decided to face his famous Island Boy, who of course was seated on his I like to think right hand side. And yes, after he basically just gave him a compliment saying that he looked good that evening. But of course, Island Boy fired back saying that yeah, he looked fake, that Bobby looked fake. And that was, and after he said that, Bobby was like, oh, so you were waiting, you have been waiting to actually say it all this while. And that was when like a verbal altercation happened between Bobby Lytes and Island Boy, which prompted immediately JasonLee to walk out of stage angrily again, and right after followed Island Boy. Now, when these two left the stage, Bobby Lytes was mad. Basically, he just said that production shouldn't pause because of either of them, that they should go on ahead with the show, with the production, right? But of course, it did seem like they were halting a bit, trying to get these two back on set. And this also kind of like triggered Bobby Lytes to like stand up and want to exit the scene. Now, in the process of trying to exit the scene, we saw Island Boy come back in and basically hurting him and saying that okay, that he should pause, he should go back in, let's talk. In my mind, I'm like, who does Island Boy think he is? Like but anyway, that's what happens when you ascribe so much importance to the help. But okay, let's keep it moving. But yeah, he came in and he was like, okay, basically Island Boy came in, like stopped Bobby from fully exiting the scene and asked him to go back, let's talk. He was like, go back, let's talk. And Bobby was like, first of all, don't run up on me like that, because it was the approach. It did seem like Island Boy had kind of like walked up on Bobby Lytes aggressively, and so he kind of like warned him not to do that again. And Island Boy kind of like responded saying that he didn't mean to, he wasn't trying to walk up on or run up on Bobby, that he should go back to his seat, let them finally have a conversation. And in between all of that drama, if you ask me, because that was just drama I saw between Bobby and Island Boy, because I think when Bobby was finally going back to his seat and basically asked him to go sit his ass down so they can finally have a conversation, Bobby was like, Island Boy was like, don't do all of that shit on camera, don't do all of that shit. And it's that it brought up a whole new verbal altercation that didn't really, I would say a short-lived verbal altercation once again, right, between Bobby Lytes and Island Boy. But they finally did make their way back to their seats to have a conversation. Later, I think the set was finally together because all members were now back on their seats. I'm trying to pick up the events to know what really happened that escalated to Bobby's, telling Island Boy that he wasn't gonna fight him because he was too cute and too rich to like engage in a fight with Island Boy. And that's when I saw JasonLee step in, basically asking Bobby Lytes if he was drunk in a very calm, collected way. Like, in fact, I would like to think in a joking way. But like, Bobby didn't find that funny, and he immediately threatened Jason never to ask him if he's drunk on cam. And that's when I think Bobby fled. No, Jason kind of like corrected him, saying that he should not talk to him that way, that he's not a cast member, basically. And that's when Bobby Lytes got up and started leaving, walking out of the set. Like, at this point, I was so tired of these guys, because like it did seem like, I don't know, like it did seem like they felt they were so important that they could just walk out of the set whenever they felt like they were angry. And it was so annoying, because if you're gonna walk out on the set and don't come back. But repeatedly these people will walk out on the set and still come back. JasonLee, for one, was like, I was like, bro, if you're that mad, just leave. Like, just leave. The show will continue. Claudia Jordan is there to also ask that question. Leave. Like, rest. Even when Island Boy did that shit, I was like, who the fuck does he even think he is to even do that in the first place? Like, why are you there in the first place? Like, why did you come on the show for a reunion when you were just gonna walk out before anything was said? Like, but I'm glad he decided to, like, you know, rethink his action. But anyway, like I said, that whole walking out and coming back on set was really, really annoying. So I could really understand where Bobby was coming from, because like I said, that shit was annoying, even though he did it. But I would like to think that he had the right to, like, also walk out, because I mean, if everybody's walking out, like, okay, let's just get this shit done and over with, okay? So, like, yeah, you know, Bobby fled up and walked out of the scene. And then you know, whilst Bobby was walking out, I heard Island Boy once again murmur something like, yeah, that's right, let him go, something like that. And I think that got on Bobby's nerves, and he came back and it was his statement for me.
You say, and this little Bahamian bitch,
I don't got nothing
that's
with
right,
that.
Jason.
I'm just not the cat.
Are you serious right now?
I am serious,
Bitch, are you
baby.
serious right now?
I am.
So yeah, you know, like, that's escalated into, like, I feel like that would have escalated into like a physical altercation, but you know, of course, the security had to stand in to stop it from happening. You know, in the process of, you know, Bobby Lytes going back, you know, obviously now his toes had been stepped on by Island Boy, so like he went back, and that's when a verbal altercation occurred. And that's when, you know, I kept hearing from Bobby. He basically kept threatening Island Boy that he was going to end him. And, you know, Island Boy kept responding, saying, we're going to say about that.
Yeah, Bobby. Hold up.
I am.
Miss Girl, are you serious right now?
Bobby.
Don't play with me, Missy. Don't play with me, this motherfucker.